Welcome to Open Forum, where we are discussing a new campaign being launched called True Islam and the Extremists. We have three great guests with us today. First, we have the author of The Wrong Kind of Muslim and Extremist, and a fellow at Harvard School of Religion, Qasim Rashid. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Next, we have Salam Bhatti, who's a practicing attorney in the largest city in the United States of America, New York City. Welcome.
Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
And next, we have an adjunct professor at the University of California, Los Angeles Law School, and a practicing partner with a law firm, Amjad Mahmood Khan.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for all being here. We'll start with you, Salam. Break it down for us. What is this campaign, True Islam and the Extremist?
So this campaign, True Islam and the Extremists, is something to educate Muslims and non-Muslims as to what the true teachings of Islam are through the Quran and through the practice and sayings of Prophet Muhammad. And through these teachings, once the public knows about it, it will not only let people know what true Islam is, but it will also protect America and increase our homeland security.
So what is the crux of the campaign? What's inside the campaign?
So the campaign has 11 points, and these 11 points are the basic elements of Islam. And this is something that we feel everybody can agree on. If there are 1 or 2 points or all 11 points that you do not agree on as a Muslim leader or a Muslim organization, then we'll have an open dialogue or a debate about these points so we can really hash out what true Islam is.
Do all Muslims actually agree on these? Because, well, we'll stay with you, Salam. I mean, I've seen scientific surveys where half the Muslims have gotten this answer wrong.
Yeah, so there are Muslim groups who have said, no, we don't agree with this point or this point, and as a result, we've had dialogue.
I'm talking about individuals, not just groups, but there's individuals out there who don't understand these 11 points.
Yes, there are, and it's because they were misguided, or they're uneducated, or they just don't know, or maybe they've been guided by Maulana Maududi. And one of those things is when it comes to separation of mosque and state.
So let's go into that. I'm just break it down for us. True Islam believes in loyalty to one's country of residence. Now, this presumes your country of residence, not just your country, because one can assume that my country is, or my nation is Islam, and I just live in this country to support the nation. So it's specifically country of residence. Can you break it down for us?
Well, the Quran, where True Islam begins with the Quran. Our campaign begins and always begins with the Quran. The verse of the Quran says, obey those who are in authority among you. Authority means vested leadership. In Islam, the notion of representative government, that you vote for your leaders, and once they've been elected, a democratic principle, and representation is made, you've elected that leadership and it's cemented and it's secure, then there is a rule of law and there is a country of residence. And you must obey those who are in authority among you in everything that's just. So this campaign, when we say loyalty to one's residence, what we're saying is, as Americans, we, as American Muslims, we profess our loyalty to this country because we derive benefits from it, we live here freely, and we can't have a divided loyalty where just because we may disagree with the country's foreign policy or otherwise, that we will be attacking the country's leaders or attacking its principles.
So that's all well and good, but what if your country of residence asks you to attack a country with a Muslim majority? Then obviously you wouldn't attack Muslims, would you?
Loyalty to country of residence means that where you're living, that government, you need to be loyal to it. You are still Muslim. Now, if you're in a state of combat where you are representing the United States government, let's say you're in the armed forces, many Muslims are in the military, and you are in war, let's say in Iraq, a Muslim government, does that mean you can't engage in combat with the Muslim government? Of course not. You should defend your homeland because you have chosen and elected to live there. There's no contradiction because your faith is still your faith. You're loyal to your faith. Your loyalty to your faith doesn't go away because you're loyal to your residence. What it means is that disorder should not be created.
So, this is mind-boggling. So you're saying that a Muslim in, say, America should fight Muslims in Iraq and be loyal to their country of residence being America?
If they're put in a position where they have to make that difficult decision, and indeed it is difficult, and they have taken an oath to defend their country and to defend the interest of the country, that allegiance is paramount, and they should not kill innocently. Of course, there's a code of conduct. They should not kill unjustly, but if it is a sanctioned war and it's an authorized war, they have to be loyal to the country.
So this loyalty to your country of residence is not a Quranic quote. Is this from the? Did the Prophet ever say this? Where are you getting this concept from? Because lots of Muslims would probably disagree with you.
It's a verbatim quote from the Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam, that you should be loyal to your country of residence. It was that specific. And that tradition is a very critical tradition. It is a tradition that he practiced in his own life. When he was in Medina, and he was effectively a sovereign, but a minority one, where 10% of the population were Muslims and 90% were not, he also, when there were acts done in the name of government, he demanded loyalty from those who were in that government. No disorder. If the government has elected to do something, you have to abide by it.
It's a verbatim quote. It's a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam, to do this. He may have said it, but this is not a very strong saying of the Prophet. It's not as strong as verified as other. So is it really a quote, or or is there some subjectivity to this?
So the critics have attacked the quote and said that it's not as strong as some other hadiths. And I think that what we need to do in this situation is see what other examples do we have that substantiate this. One example are the actual actions of Prophet Muhammad. And we know the old saying, actions speak louder than words. And it is well documented in several, say, authentic books of hadith that on multiple occasions, a member of the enemy came to the Prophet and said, I wish to pledge allegiance to you. And he turned them away because he said that you left your enemy with them thinking that you were going to attack. Now, if you join, you would be disloyal to your nation of residence. If you want to join the Muslims, you must first go back, revoke your loyalty to them, then come back and I will accept your pledge of allegiance. This was the principle. Prophet Muhammad was so attuned to justice that even when he could have used this as a huge tactical advantage, he refused to, because it was dishonest, it was contrary to his faith, to his actions, until and unless somebody, even an enemy combatant, openly rejected the opposing side's loyalty. Until that happened, he would not accept their loyalty among the Muslims. And this is the principle that he imposed on all Muslims.
So in support of this argument, Salam, there's a Quranic chapter 4, verse 16. We'll put it on the screen, but I'll read it to you. O ye who believe, obey Allah and obey the Prophet and obey those in authority from among you. I'm going to reference this as well. Why this verse? What does it mean?
So it's so beautiful in the way that you need, as Muslims, to follow the leader. Those leaders who are among you, not from within you, not of your own kind. Again, there's no asterisk associated with this. From among you is the people, the community, whoever is around you. If
but does that mean only Muslim leaders among you?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because you have Allah, you have the Prophet, and that is your religion. Then you have leaders from among you. It doesn't say religious, it doesn't say secular. So that means the leaders from among you who have been elected or are appointed, those are the ones you need to obey.
That's beautiful, and it's very convincing. There's a counter argument, though. There's Maulana Abdullah al-Maududi, there's Khomeini from Iran, there's the Daesh leader Baghdadi, who they've all said the only valid government is only based on Quran. So the logic would go, if the only valid government is based on the Quran, and US, England, France, you pick your country, are not based on the Quran, so therefore it's not a valid government, therefore there's no valid leader, so therefore you punt and you go to another valid leader. It seems like they've dispelled all your theory.
Well, I think it's important to realize is how ridiculous this preposition is that these extremist leaders are promoting. When we look at the form of government that the founder of Islam, Prophet Muhammad himself established when he had authority, it was not a theocracy. It was a secular government. And there's no better example of this than the Charter of Medina, the constitution that the Prophet Muhammad made with the Jewish tribes of Medina. This is a secular document that confirms, among other things, universal freedom of religion, equality of Muslims and Jews, the obligation of both Muslims and Jews to fight and defend one another, the affirmation that no Muslim will be wronged for being a Muslim, no Jew will be wronged for being a Jew, and the restriction of any kind of religious compulsion or religious force on anyone else. If, in fact, Islam taught that the Quran must forcibly govern over all people, Muslims and non-Muslims. The first person to do that would have been Prophet Muhammad. But when given the opportunity, he did the exact opposite and created a secular document.
Wow. That's a great point, but let me come back to you and let me lay out another logic for you that may counter to what you said earlier. Take United States of America. Due to bad policies against the Middle East and the country, over 500 years of bad policies by the West, where they've drawn the country lines differently, they've divided people, they've unfairly funded certain folks and then turned them into friends and then foes. I mean, there's a lot of interesting history that has led to individuals on the other side saying, this is not right. Therefore, it's failed American leadership, and therefore any Muslim who lives in this country, their purpose is to live here and to truly support their nation of Islam and not support this. So how do you deal with this when you do your advocacy work in Capitol Hill, in Washington, D.C., in the White House, and the Muslim community is very active? How do you put these two things side by side where there's all these policies that to an observer from outside the U.S. would say aren't very good policies for those individuals, and it's wrong, but I understand type of an argument, to being loyal to that country? Does that make sense?
It does, and I think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what we mean by loyalty to one's nation. Loyalty does not mean you can't criticize or critique policies. Loyalty does not mean you have to agree with the United States government in their foreign exploits. Loyalty does not mean that you can't protest the United States policies. Loyalty, the way we define it, is not to be subversive of law and order, not to be subversive against your government that is serving you.
So do you guys protest, public protests?
Protests are permitted. You can protest. Our community chooses not to protest because we believe there are better means to achieve your goals. Protests have symbolic importance, but if you really want to change a policy, you work within the system to effectuate that change over time. It may mean you might not get your way initially, but the lawmakers and in the rule of law that exists, and we believe very strongly the United States government, with all its imperfections, is still a representative democracy. And the Quran doesn't favor one form of government over the other. Very importantly, the Quran does not say that a monarchy is the only form of government or a democracy. It says there's adaptive political structures, but you need to be working within those structures. Now, if you don't, the consequences are very dire, and we've seen that firsthand.
So let me take you to another country, the country of Pakistan. Your community in particular, you've been declared non-Muslims. The country, by its constitution, dislikes your community to the point they've declared you non-Muslim. Their passports, they have constitutional amendments. How do you be loyal to that country?
Be loyal in a very profound way. When a country has declared and stripped your ability to self-identify your own faith, that doesn't mean you leave the country. What that means is you show by your own example that you are Muslims, that you're serving the government. What more powerful statement for an Ahmadi Muslim who's been told you can't call yourself a Muslim, you're the wrong kind of Muslim, to take my colleague Qasim's title of his book, you're the wrong kind of Muslim, but you're still there, you're still serving humanity when there's an earthquake that's happening, you're still serving military and government, you're still serving high office.
But you don't support those laws, I take it.
We don't support those laws, but we don't take subversive measures to counter those laws. We don't take violent protests. Or in fact, we are suffocated. Our rights are suffocated and we're suppressed. And the only response we have is the response of the Ibadur Rahman, the servants of the gracious God. Salam. Peace. Peace in the face of persecution.
So, Qasim, you've written a book on this topic, The Wrong Kind of Muslim. And we're talking about the topic of true Islam believes in loyalty to one's country of residence. Pakistan, these individuals in your book, I mean, you give countless examples of how organized governmental persecution. How do you deal with that?
Well, we deal with it by following the true Islam that Prophet Muhammad established. Whatever Ahmadi Muslims are suffering through in Pakistan, it's very similar to what the early Muslims and Prophet Muhammad himself suffered through at the hands of the Quraysh in Mecca in the first 10 to 12 years of his ministry. What was his example in the face of that brutal persecution? What was his example when he saw his own family members, his own companions murdered in the cruelest way? His response was peace and patience. And then those Muslims who could no longer withstand the persecution, he told them, migrate elsewhere. And this is what Ahmadi Muslims are doing, trying to change the system peacefully internally and migrating elsewhere. I want to make one more critical comment regarding the protest question, because this comes up very often. Leading thinkers now are agreeing that the rise of Daesh and other terrorist organizations is in part because of the failed Arab Spring. You know, in 2011, the world erupted in the Arab Spring, and we thought this is where democracy will make a revolutionary return to these Muslim majority states. It hasn't returned. It's the same old draconian dictatorship style leadership that frustrated them, and now that frustration is tenfold, and those youth who are disenfranchised are now joining these extremist organizations. This is why we say, follow the example of Prophet Muhammad. That is true Islam. Change the system internally through dialogue and through education. And if you cannot, then do what the Quran says. Try and migrate to a different land. You know, it's
love it or leave it.
Exactly.
Huh? So Salam, you're youthful in your looks and your presence, but there's a lot of youth, American-raised youth, American citizen. These aren't foreign invaders. There was a Faisal Shahzad in New York City Times Square attempted bombing. There was the Sayyid Farouk and his wife may not have been American, but Sayyid Farouk was an American citizen who attacked. Presumably, these people did it for their faith. How do you educate these youth, you know, under 28 years old and 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds who are doing this? How are they being radicalized to not be loyal to their country of residence? But more importantly, what are you doing about addressing this youth violence?
We are teaching the youth directly what true Islam is. And as a result of that, youth have learned what Islam is, and they are not doing these extremist acts. What we saw happen in San Bernardino County and New York City.
Where Amjad's from, yeah.
In New York City, where I'm from.
Yeah.
It hits close to home, both in faith and physical presence. And what we have seen is that these extremist groups are cults. And what they do is they attract these youth by taking their raging hormones and their hatred for their parents during that, you know, difficult time of their lives. You know, everyone's gone through something like that. And they say, listen, you are the chosen one. We are going to make you rise up. We are going to make you a hero, a champion.
They're being manipulated.
They're being manipulated. And we are taking to social media and letting these youth know that, no, that is not the answer. This is that higher ideology, true Islam. And you can become your own hero in your own community by being just like Prophet Muhammad, peaceful, a champion for justice and truth.
And loyal to your country of residence?
Loyalty to your country of residence.
So tell me about this campaign a little bit, this True Islam and the Extremist campaign. There's lots of people who disagree with you. There's surveys, there's scientific surveys that have been done where over half the individuals probably disagree with your point of view. Half of Muslims, whether it's 2 million or 7 million, that's a large number of Muslims who disagree with you. What are you doing to get this word out? I mean, my fear is it's an echo chamber of you talking to amongst yourselves versus these millions of individuals out there to inform them of your view versus Maududi versus Khomeini versus Baghdadi. And how are you doing that? How are you doing it with in the political sphere and elected officials understanding? We have a lot of challenges where elected officials disagree, where they believe Islam is an extremist religion. How are you doing this through using the channels that people go to, and how are you debating the issue, and how are you informing? We'll start with you.
Well, I think you nailed it. We need to have these debates. We need to have these public discussions. Part of the problem why extremists are writing their narrative so effectively is because Muslims aren't coming to terms on what true Islam is. So the purpose.
Oh, you think Muslim leaders don't know what the true Islam is?
I think Muslim leaders are failing the Muslim youth. They're failing the Muslim community. And part of the goal of the True Islam campaign is to remove sectarian differences and focus on true Islam at its core. These 11 points that we discussed.
So is there a Muslim leader that I can point to who's actually leading youth and adults?
The model, as members of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, we believe is Mirza Masroor Ahmad, the Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the fifth successor to the promised Messiah, who advocates separation of mosque and state, universal freedom of conscience, equality of men and women. And the invitation that we have to Muslim leaders throughout the country is let's come to terms on these 11 fundamental points. And if you're in disagreement about any of them, rather than letting it fester under the carpet where extremism thrives. Let's bring it out in the open. Let's have a public dialogue and a public debate so that we can rectify where we disagree, pinpoint it, and find a way to come to terms, because right now, the longer we wait, the more our youth will be lost.
Great point. How are you communicating with the youth? I mean, social media seems like one clear way to do this. Are they receptive? I mean, what are other tools that you're getting to them and helping them understand?
It's a digital seed that we're planting in people. And as a result of that, we've seen people through a tweet, through Periscope sessions, these Muslim youth have now started questioning their leadership, saying, listen, I learned this from another Muslim who seems to be rational, seems to be logical, and he seems to be a good Muslim. He's saying this, but you're telling me this. So now they've created a dialogue within their own mosques, within their own Muslim community centers, and this is filtering out to the rest of the Muslim community across the country. And as a result, more and more people are joining the True Islam effort.
Elected officials, I mean, there's individuals like Donald Trump, there's individuals like Ben Carson who ran for political office. During their campaigns, they were talking about how Islam is evil. They need to shut down mosques, and if they do that, that will lead to national security and a safe America. Some people agree with them.
Well, our view is that leaders prefer and lawmakers prefer prescriptions over complaints. And as one of the most organized American Muslim groups, and with the True Islam campaign, we've told our lawmakers that Muslims need to be a part of the solution to this perceived issue of radicalization of some Muslim millennials. You can't say that that's a problem and not use Muslims to counter that. What is the counter narrative? What is the counter measure? People are desperate. Lawmakers are desperate. How do you counter ISIS? How do you counter those measures? So we have a Stop the Crisis campaign, for instance, play on words with ISIS and crisis. The idea is this is a counter narrative to the very powerful propaganda that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and his team is placing.
But how are you educating the elected officials?
We're telling them that this community...
Have you actively gone out to the elected officials?
We have, and we've said that we have a caucus, the Ahmadiyya Muslim Caucus, bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats, and we've said that...
Both Republicans and Democrats?
And Democrats, and we're saying instead for someone like Donald Trump or Dr. Ben Carson, who say, you know, maybe you should start registering Muslims, all Muslims. We say don't typecast, don't cast a wide net. You have to understand the nuance within Islam. The struggle of our day is the struggle for the soul of Islam. And that struggle is inuring to the benefit of our community because we have a campaign. We have True Islam.
Are there individuals who are receptive to this?
Very receptive, because they say, well, you are Muslims who believe in separation of mosque and state. Take loyalty. You are Muslims who believe that there's no divided loyalties, that you can't be a U.S. citizen and try to kill innocent people. You have a clear narrative that America's enemies are your enemies. That's what they tell us. And it's clear and it's simple to understand, but most importantly, and it's a point raised by both Salam and Qasim, leadership matters, and we're united and guided by a single leader, the Khalifa, the fifth successor to the promised Messiah, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who preaches every Friday. We have this fresh guidance that loyalty to your nation is most important, and stop the radicalization of some within the Muslim ranks. That has to stop. Clear-eyed message, loud, categorical, unmistakable, unambiguous. And that message, that refreshing guidance, is desperately what lawmakers need.
Muhammad, to the loyalty of the country of residence, when our Connecticut mosque was shot up, the Fox News correspondent who came, he was amazed that the first thing he walked in on was an American flag. And the light in that mosque never goes off on that American flag. And when he was interviewing me, he noticed there's a flag on my lapel. I mean, this flag stays here, even when it goes on the dry cleaner. Like, that's because I'm proud to be an American.
That's great. So, I buy it. I mean, there's counter narratives, but the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is doing this great campaign, and these 11 points will unite Muslims and prevent terrorism. But three issues I have with the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. Some say you guys are heretics. Some say that you guys are a small offshoot. And three, you guys aren't Muslims. Give me 30-second answers to each one, and how do you defend the Ahmadiyya Muslim community? If I'm going to buy into you carrying the mantle of Islam and sharing these 11 points and sharing true Islam, Are you the credible representatives of Islam? Are you guys heretics?
Well, let me start with that. And I think this is an example of the inconsistent Muslim leadership that we're seeing that's led us to having extremists in the first place. Rather than engaging in debate, in dialogue, in a public discourse, some extremist leaders are resorting to this very draconian, very barbaric allegation that, oh, you're heretical. Well, rather than simply talking the talk, we want to walk the walk and have a public dialogue and debate. We are not heretics. We believe in that Islam, that true Islam that Prophet Muhammad established 1400 years ago. And we are leading by example and showing with our actions worldwide, and certainly in the United States, that true Islam is loyalty to your country of residence. And for those who would disagree, rather than hide and radicalize your youth, let's have an open debate about it.
That's great.
So regarding size, it doesn't matter. America is about 4% of the world population, and look how much power and influence America has in the whole world. The same goes for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. Look how much influence we've had in how Islam is progressing in this day and age without losing what Islam actually is.
So are you one of the larger communities, or are you one of the...
We're the single largest organized Muslim community in the world.
Wow. So you have a counter in there. And then what do you say to your non-Muslims? Like, well, let me open up with one question. There's also rumors that you have a different kalama. Can you recite your kalama as well, and then tell us if you
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. There is no God but Allah, and the Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace, is his messenger. We are fierce guardians of defending the honor of the Prophet Muhammad. We are custodians of his honor. We are custodians of Islam. We are custodians of Islam's legacy. We as Ahmadi Muslims believe that we are reviving what the Prophet Muhammad taught, and those who stole and perverted those teachings, they can't stand in our way. If they want to say tens of millions of ambassadors of peace are non-Muslim, that strains credulity. Of course we're a Muslim, and that judgment, by the way, is not for another person to make. That judgment, fortunately, in Islam, is left for God alone. We do everything Muslims do. We believe in all of the essential principles, and we do it with the core of our hearts, and because we are guided by the leader of the faithful, a spiritual caliphate, not an extreme one. True Islam is built upon the premise of resurrecting and restoring the teachings of Islam that the Prophet taught.
Great. Thank you. I think we've had a great show, an open forum. We're defending true Islam believes in loyalty to one's country of residence, even if it's not a Muslim country, even though some disagree. You guys have made a fierce argument from the Quran, from the sayings of the Prophet, to say that true Islam believes in loyalty to one's country of residence. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for joining us on Open Forum as we discussed the campaign True Islam and the Extremists. Visit trueislam.com for more information. And until next time, this has been Open Forum.